All right, EntreArchitect community, it's 4 p.m. Eastern, which means it's time for the EntreArchitect community. No, it's not. So,
It's not.
hey, well, I started to get into the EntreArchitect community annual meeting. I'm stuck on that. Hey,
Wow.
it's Context and Clarity Live.
Wherever we are, they're not even listening, Jeff.
We're lost. We're stuck in Austin, Texas at this point. As you join us, say hi. Let us know that you're here. Let us know where here is for you. Where are you joining this conversation from? If we've never met before, my name is Jeff. I'm in Indianapolis. I come here every weekday afternoon at 4 p.m. Eastern for one reason, so that we can find clarity around the things that matter most to you, the architect. Doesn't matter if you are the employee of a firm or you own your own firm. Maybe you've circled a date on the calendar and you said, in the next month and a half, I'm going to start my own thing, and you're on the runway to launching that thing. Or maybe you have owned your own firm for a year or 9 years or 27 years, and you're starting to rethink or reimagine what that firm could or maybe even should be. All of the topics that we cover, one topic every day, they all fall under the broad umbrella of the business of architecture. And they're all the need to know topics for the success of entrepreneur architects just like you. As usual, for these Context and Clarity Live conversations, I'm joined today by Katharine MacPhail. Hi, Katharine.
Hello, Jeff. It's nice to see you in the box again here as we're in our where we should be instead of out in
For,
the wild.
yes, that was one of the running jokes. If you were in Austin, Texas for the EntreArchitect Community Annual Meeting, you were outside of the Zoom box, and
Mm,
somebody may have seen you and said, "Hey, I didn't realize you were that tall, or was that short,
right.
or you're
Exactly.
not this size on the screen anymore."
Yep. Yep.
Yep,
It was fun, but it's and some people look just like I know they look, and some people did not. So that's always fun.
it
Anyway,
is. It
it
is.
was a good time. It was a good
Yeah.
time.
Well, and the good news is everybody's back in their box now, so
I
we're
know
back.
I feel better actually. It's a little more comfortable this way for me because we've been spending years together. Years, 2.5 years, almost 3 years.
We
Yeah,
have been. Yeah, it's
like
coming
this.
up on 3. Yeah. 4 months away, I think, something like
Yeah.
that. Yeah, amazing. So
Mm,
glad you made it home. Glad everybody out there made it home from
I'm glad you
Austin. For
made it
those of
home.
you, yes, yeah, I had a good time staying in Austin for a few extra days. And for those of you that weren't able to join us in Austin, we missed you, but look forward to next year, and you can join us next year. Details to come. Let's see who's first in the room today.
Um,
Um,
was
Christian?
it? I have. Yeah, I
I
guess
think,
Christian. Yeah.
yep. Yep. It looks like Christian was first in the room today from Ithaca, New York, joining us on Facebook. That means he is the winner of today's John Kinney Memorial Crocheted Bathtub Award. So, welcome, Christian. Glad you've joined us, and congratulations. Scott Thrift has joined us from San Francisco. He says Deb Schmucker, who's my friend here in Indianapolis, is in the city. She's in San Francisco. Um, Scott
Mm,
says he has her on a wild historic architectural goose chase, the Old Mint to Buena Vista by cable car, photo ops of, uh, okay, Balcutha and Alcatraz behind. I probably butchered that.
yeah.
Grab some chocolate at Ghirardelli. Weather is perfect. Awesome for you and for Deb. Thanks for joining us today. Scott Barry Reed in Scotland. Thanks for the thumbs up. Hello. Good evening to you. And Ed Shannon. Ed thought he was the first one in, but no, Christian beat him. Thanks for joining us today from Des Moines, Iowa. Ed, he says Zoom makes him look taller. And then David
Mm-hmm.
Phillips, thanks for joining us from YouTube from Central California. Mark LePage from Waxhaw, North Carolina, and John Jones from Westport, Connecticut. Chris from Massachusetts, and Diego, welcome back from Nicaragua. Glad you're joining us. He says he's running a little bit late, but that's okay. We're just getting started. Glad that you're all joining us. Maria, we see you in Southern California, and Kurt over there on Twitch. Good afternoon from Flint, Michigan. It's a good time to remind you, if you are joining us right now from a Facebook group and you say, hey, my comments are not showing up, the way Christians are, or the way Eds are, or the way Diego's are on screen like this. It's because you are in a private Facebook group, and there are rules involved that say that your name, your likeness, your comment can't be let outside of that group unless you give Facebook permission. So go to chat.restream.io/FB, as in Facebook. It's in the lower left-hand corner of your screen. Open up another browser window. Just type that into the browser there. A couple of clicks later, you'll give Facebook permission to talk to Restream, and your comment should show up just like Chris Novelli's and Elizabeth Carmichael's and everybody else that's joining us from Facebook right now. So that is the key to solving all of your problems, every single one of them.
Every one of them.
Yeah, every one of them. Chat.restream.io/FB, like Facebook. So do that, and everything will be good. All right. What have we missed? Seems like there ought to be some housekeeping that I forgot. Am I forgetting?
I think that's what you were just doing. I think you're done. You're done with your housekeeping.
Okay. I was sweeping the floor. We're ready to go.
Ready to go.
Here we go. The dogs are barking, and we're good to go.
They're excited.
Yep. We've had our guest back in the green room for a while now. We have new treats this week. Instead of green M&Ms like we usually do, today we have Cadbury Dairy Milk Chocolates in the green room. So we'll see how that's going back there.
Those are the best.
I always, I remember around Easter time here, they have the Cadbury eggs, the chocolate egg you crack open, and it's like there's a real yolk inside there. I've never had one of those because it freaks me out a lot.
What? You have never had one, Jeff? How is that possible?
Well, first of all, it's not dark chocolate.
Oh, well, I remember having them in early 80s. We ate quite a lot of them, and they were bigger then. I swear they were bigger, and now they're smaller.
Well, yeah.
They're great. You should try it.
Kurt says Cadbury eggs are his favorite. All right, so I think this whole conversation today is going to be about Cadbury and chocolate. So we'll see how that goes.
It could be devolved into that unless we introduce our guest.
Yeah, we ought to do that. All right. Our guest today is an entrepreneur, a mom, and an architect, and a Clubhouse host, I should say. She's the host of the Pride Road Architects podcast and the founder of the architectural practice franchise Pride Road in the UK. Lisa Raynes, welcome to Context and Clarity Live.
Hi everybody.
Hi.
Thanks for having me.
It's great to have you. So the first question naturally has to be, what do you think about the Cadbury eggs? Can you get the Cadbury eggs in the UK?
Yes,
or is that,
but only around Easter time. So they don't have, they limit it seasonally. But they're good. They are good.
Okay. All right. So you're a thumbs up on the Cadbury eggs. Very good.
Most people would be.
Well, okay.
But we don't have to talk about it.
Yeah, I can be the oddball. I'm happy with that.
Okay.
Well, Lisa, thank you for joining us today. You've got an intriguing story and an intriguing approach to what you're doing right now. But I thought maybe we could start by asking, just sort of go back towards the beginning and just ask, how did you get your start in architecture?
Well, I went straight into architecture school from school. So when I was 18, I went to university to do my degree in architecture. So in the UK, it's 7 years. So it's your part ones is a degree in architecture. Then you do a year in practice, then 2 years postgrad, and then a second year in practice. And then your part threes, which is your professional qualifications. So I did my part ones at Leeds Metropolitan University. I came out in the recession. So it was recession of 1993. So it was quite tough to get work there. Then I went back to do my postgrad at UCL, so that's at the Bartlett, and did my second year in industry back in Manchester, We were kind of starting to boom then, so I did that with Ian Simpson. And then I was working in practice, so in other people's practices, for the first kind of half of my career. And so that worked well whilst the economy was booming. So, and I actually got made redundant after my first child, because I was working in a smaller practice that kind of decided to close down their Manchester office. So I had switched jobs, and then I had my second child during the boom over here, and so that was really great. I got good maternity pay. I was really well supported, came back in to practice, and that was really good. But then it was the financial crash of what was it? 2008, 2009.
Mhm.
And that was it. It was kind of like took time out to have child number 3, thinking that, you know, the architecture, the financial climate would improve by the time I got back, but it didn't. So I tried to get back into practice in 2010 when about 50% of all UK architects lost their jobs. So it was tough. And so that's when I set up on my own, out of necessity.
Yeah. That happens a lot. I mean, you know, a lot of this community, a good number of people in this community have started their own practices since the beginning, you know, since things shut down for the pandemic. So, you know, I think there are probably a lot of us that get started out of necessity, started on our own out of necessity. So what was it like to start your own firm?
It was scary at first, but I loved it. I kind of really loved the autonomy. I loved the business side of it. I loved the marketing side of it. I loved client facing. I loved being able to just say whatever I wanted to say on social media. And it was the start of, you know, Web 2.0, the start of Twitter. And that was just really, it was really freeing, and I could write blogs, and I was just putting loads of content out there. And it was really good fun. And the first thing that I tried to do was I tried to model my practice on what I'd seen. So I started thinking, I'm going to have a big office, and I want it to be structured like this. Well, you know, I'm going to have a design manager, I'm going to have a technical manager, I'm going to have students, you know, and in practice is going to be, you know, there's going to be 8 of us. And so I kind of started to model the practice in the image that I'd seen previously. So in terms of sectors, we were going to, you know, I was going to do commercial work, I was going to do housing and master planning, and I was going to do some social housing to give back. So I tried to break into all of those sectors, and I did to a certain extent. And then I started hitting a wall trying to get into social housing. And I kind of realized actually that's where my passion was, and it was to help people with their homes. And then conversely, I was getting the actual work that was trickling through. The bread and butter was like home extensions, renovations. And I'd always been told that that was like the worst end of the market, that, you know, clients were really fickle and they were really litigious, and it was really personal, and it was really hard, and architects don't work in that, you know, for homeowners. But actually what I found the opposite to be true. I really enjoyed talking to homeowners. So lay clients, you know, I really enjoyed. You're the first time that they've actually spoken to an architect. You kind of have to talk, you know, you have to explain what's going on in layman's terms. So you have to manage expectations, and you have to be really clear about how you present your service, how you add value. But most of all, I really enjoyed it. And from a business point of view, it made sense because, you know, sort of like to do a lot of small extensions was more predictable than trying to go after that large commercial client.
Yeah.
And I found that domestic clients paid on time. And so, whereas the commercial clients, you know, I ended up getting, you know, a bad debt.
Okay.
Or they were late payers, you know, like I was trying to do some master planning work for the NHS, and it was on like a 90 or 120 day payment. And you can't run a business like that.
What's
Sorry?
NHS? What's NHS?
NHS. Oh, that's the National Health Service.
Okay.
So I was, government client. I was kind of like doing some work through a planning consultant, doing some master planning on some estate, some old hospital. So it was like an old hospital estate that they were, you know, trying to put some housing on.
Yeah.
Yeah, but it was just the payment terms were so late that it was. Sorry, I can just see the questions popping up. Can I call it out? John Jones says, I like Lisa's phrase, domestic clients. My clients are not domesticated.
Yeah. Well, you know, the story that you're telling, I think is one that resonates with a lot of our audience. I mean, I think a lot of architects share that experience. And you know, leading up to this, right? We're going to do commercial, and we're going to do this, but it sounds like you're headed towards a pivot at this point.
And it was only 2012, 2 years into it, that I kind of realized actually I can see the numbers. You know, I can see how many domestic clients make an inquiry, how many turn into, you know, a free initial consultation, how many then go on to a concept stage, and how many turn into a project. So once I could see those numbers, I was like, aha, there's a system here.
Nice.
And a process. Nice. And I've been doing it ever since.
So what does it take to go from that point, in that aha moment, which is fantastic, right? I think a lot of us are waiting for aha moments. I'm waiting for a few of them. I've got a list of ahas that I'm waiting for. What does it take to go from there? You know, you said, aha, there's a system there, to start building out what is now known, I guess, as Pride Road.
So I looked at the numbers. Once you know how many inquiries turn into a project, you can start putting values on inquiries.
Meaning?
Sorry?
Value. What does that mean? You mean like
a monetary value?
Okay. To other people, you mean?
Sorry?
I mean, you would sell the leads to other people? Is that what you mean?
No, it's just, you know, how much a lead or an inquiry costs.
I see what you're saying. How much it costs.
Yeah, so in terms of, or, you know, the value, so kind of lead acquisition, you know, then that, you know, if you do X amount of marketing and you get Y amount of leads, that's going to lead into projects.
Yeah.
So
that,
you know,
so that becomes your first system then, your lead generation system. What happens after that?
Well, we we've got quite a slick system. It's once a client makes an inquiry, they we take them through kind of a process. It's like a sausage factory. So they come in through a booking app. So at the moment I'm using Zoho bookings, but to start off with I was using Schedule Once or 10 to 8. And then so I was sending out a link to clients to then enter their own details in. And once they enter their details in, then they go into our CRM system.
Oh.
Mm-hmm.
So at what point, I mean, you're starting to build these systems, which are important. And, you know, if we're honest about it, we've been talking about before we went live, we were talking about the fact that we've essentially been talking about these topics all week. And we all know that there are systems that we need that we don't have. And so you're starting to develop these marketing and business development and sales systems. At what point did you say, oh, I can build this into a franchise? Because I don't think this is a natural leap for a lot of architects.
No. So what happened with me was I started going to networking events and reading business books. So I'm moving my chair around, so I keep on kind of going big and small on the screen.
That's right. I move around all the time myself. So. Jeff somehow stays still all the time.
Yeah. So I was like listening to people, listening to entrepreneurs, listening to business leaders, reading Michael Gerber's E-Myth Revisited. And that was right, okay. So, and that's the idea of the franchise started there. And then I was involved in Women in Property in the UK. So I was chair of Women in Property Northwest. That was around 2012. And then I got involved in the RIBA, and I sat on the council between 2015 and 2018. And I started to see these figures of women entering the profession and then dropping out sort of after the age of 30. So like careers would climb and then plateau, and then women would fall off. And I kind of knew that I'd actually found a business model that actually would suit sort of people who needed that work-life balance. So parents, carers, mums, or anyone that wants a life as well as architecture.
Imagine.
And I knew that I had the solution. So that was my aha. I need to find a way of taking it to market to help, so kind of like to almost best practice to take best practice into the profession, into the industry, and teach people how to do it. And I was reading Michael Gerber's E-Myth Revisited, and he talked about franchising, and I kind of started listening out for franchisors and talking to franchisors, and I thought I'll give it a go. And the way that I looked at it was, right, if I prepare my business to be franchised and I don't franchise, the end result is actually I've got a tight business. With tight processes and tight systems. So from 2012 to 2016, which is when I launched, I spent those 4 years just kind of streamlining all the processes. So whether I would have launched or not, I had a solid business.
Yeah. And that's we've had, you and I have talked about this before. We had Michael Gerber as a guest on Context and Clarity Live before, and ultimately that's his point, right? It's, if you build all these systems as if you were building a franchise, as you said, then you have a tight business. And to me, that's the absolute benefit of having this conversation in conversations with people like Michael Gerber, is how do we make our businesses better, more efficient, tighter, run better, and all of those things. So you spent 4 years building those systems, and you did launch, obviously. What happened, or what does it look like now that you've launched and you have all these systems in place? If there's someone that wants to buy a franchise, that wants to open their own firm, and they're thinking, well, okay, I could go out on my own and I could figure this out. The same process that you went through, going back years before that. Or I see what Lisa's doing here at Pride Road. What does it look like when they talk to you for the first time about the franchise model and getting into the franchise model?
So yeah, we just start by having a chat, and I'll kind of start to show them a bit of the back of house and how it works. And then, kind of meet sort of like the other franchisees. And then you will start kind of developing a business plan with them. So it's got to stack up for them.
Yeah.
I have a lot of questions for you. But one thing, reading your website, and it says that usually you think of having two roads available. Either you work for someone else or you work for yourself. But then this is an in-between road. So what the questions that the community had, or that we've been talking about, is things like, what exactly do you get for the franchise? Do you have like that pattern you have on the wall? Does everybody's space look the same? Are you in charge of the designs? How do you systematize creativity?
So we provide kind of like the process and the systems, but we don't provide the designs.
Okay.
So it's the framework for how you manage clients and how you deliver the product. So we start with a hand-drawn concept design workshop on tracing paper, and we kind of train the franchisees to work in that way. But we're architects, we're used to drafting. It's nice to go back to tracing paper. And it's just getting comfortable doing that with someone watching you.
That someone's you? Is that you?
To start off with, yes, but then we do those workshops in front of our clients.
Clients, like domestic clients.
Domestic clients, yeah. Yeah. So I've just done one today. So I've just done a work because I still practice as an architect in a territory. So it was a semi-detached 3-bedroom house in Wilmslow, where we were looking at, first of all, they were looking at a loft conversion, but they didn't have enough height. So I kind of showed them why it wouldn't work, and I had to explain it. And then, sort of showing them on site and explaining, and then they could dismiss that as an idea. And then we were talking about rearranging the first floor to be able to get 4 bedrooms rather than 3 bedrooms. So that fulfilled their need. And then on the ground floor, we were looking at either reconfiguring or extending to kind of get their downstairs space. And it was 3.5 hours, and I drew 4 options for upstairs and 4 options for the ground floor.
Wow.
And loved it. I love it. It's really good fun.
All right. So then you train other architects to work in that system?
Yeah.
So
it's their ideas. I'm not saying this is how you do it. This is, you must lay your kitchen out exactly like and as a group, we come back together and we share ideas.
Oh, you do?
So,
Okay. Because people were
yeah,
wondering, like, how do you vet
yeah.
people? Like, how do you decide, like, you are not a good designer and I don't want you to be representing my brand? I mean, how far does that go? If someone is horrible at the design and you feel like they're horrendous designs, then what? Then what?
Well, I think, you know, in the first instance, my benchmark is you must be an architect, a UK qualified architect to join.
Okay. That was another question.
So I know the training that a UK architect has.
Okay.
So I know that they'll be able to, that they can do technical drawings, and that you know, it just may be a bit of practice to do it by hand.
All right.
So I'm curious, because you've gone through this workshop, and maybe another a word that I might use for it would be charrette, but I think we're talking about the same thing. So you went through these 4 options with the client today: upstairs, downstairs. What happens after that? Are you producing construction drawings after that, or
Yeah,
does
we
it
will
stop?
do. Yeah, we will do. But again, we'll take the client through the process. So we'll give them, first of all, once we've done the workshop, we'll invoice for it to make sure we get paid before they're released. Then we ask the client to do their own feasibility. So we ask the client to speak to builders or a quantity surveyor to get it cost checked. Speak to an estate agent to understand a realtor, is that, to understand the value. And then speak to neighbours to see if there's any showstoppers. If you're doing something unneighbourly, then they need to be prepared.
That's
And then
so polite to say it that way. Unneighborly.
unneighbourly.
Yeah.
Well,
Okay.
if they are and they're going to upset the neighbours, then everyone needs to be prepared.
That's true.
And then we arrange a meeting a month later to allow the clients to process those ideas. And then at that point, they'll make a decision whether they're going to go ahead or they're not.
Yeah.
So you've got a really clear, so it takes away those hundreds of emails backwards and forwards. What about this design? Can we change the bathroom layout? Can we move this? Is it $60,000? Is it 50? You know, so it's all managed really tightly. And at that follow-up meeting, it's a yes, no. And if they're a no, it's like, thank you very much, but they've enjoyed the process, they've paid for it, they've got value out of it. Hopefully they'll recommend us, or they'll move house and need to use us on the next one. Or if it's a yes, let's move forward, then they turn into planning drawings for us. So planning so in the UK we go, there's a planning process, and then there's a building regulations process, which is like your construction drawings.
Okay.
I think planning's like zoning.
Yeah, probably. Sounds like it.
Probably so. Yep.
Oh, wait. That's not, well, this is kind of like the question I already asked. I meant to put this one up, which is Christians. Is Lisa's model applicable in the US? Do you have any franchisees here?
No, I would love to, but in the first instance, I would need a master franchisor to set up the franchise over there. So
US based.
A US based, so it would need someone kind of like the equivalent of me who wants to, you know, manage and grow the US franchise. So I'm happy to have chats with people.
Are the franchises all separate? Are they kind of independent, or are they kind of make part of a bigger? I'm trying to figure out how independent they are. Are they all a part of your business?
So at the moment, there's five of us, and we're spread across the UK. I've got a map in the background.
Oh, I like that.
Oh, yeah. Great.
So if you're listening on the podcast, you're not going to see this, but this is a map of the UK. So up north, you've got me and Magda. We're in different territories. I've split the UK into 155 territories.
Oh.
Each territory is 70,000 owner-occupier homes within a 30-minute travel distance. No, there's no uniforms involved.
Yeah, that's a big question.
But we have lots of branding things. I've got a mug here.
Everybody gets a mug.
Everyone gets a mug.
And then I think over to your other side, you have that that orange patterned wall. Is that over there?
They're my curtains.
Yeah. Does everybody get to have that as well? And
yeah, you can. But this is all part of our branding. So if someone was to buy into the franchise, and you do have to buy into it. So at the moment, it's £10,000 to buy a license to trade using Pride Road in the UK for 5 years. So you buy it for 5 years, and as part of that, you'll get a territory. You can there's a suite of logos and templates and branding that you can use, and also you can access our photographs. So we have photos and case studies of our domestic projects. And a common problem with people who want to set up on their own is that they don't have any photos. So you come with a ready-made portfolio. You've got the website that you can use will create landing pages and content for you. We'll start you off on the social media. We'll start you off with marketing, and then we'll do some marketing training.
That sounds great, actually. I mean, it's kind of someone else already thought of all those details that are kind of exhausting and outside of the interest of a lot of architects.
You don't have to spend your time designing a business card. It's little things like you don't have to think about what font you're going to have to use or what color Pantone you're going to use. We've got branding guidelines.
Yeah,
that's real.
Yeah.
I know we're coming up on a hard stop here. I think Ed's question here. I'm just going to jump in. I think it really speaks to another important aspect of what you're doing. He's asking, are the franchise practices limited to residential additions? Can you speak to the real focus and niche that you have at Pride Road?
Yeah, so yes, it is limited to residential additions. That is our niche. We know our customer, so we know our client avatar, we know how to reach them, and our website reflects that, and all our social media reflects that. So sort of quite often over here, people think of sort of architects as kind of award-winning, sort of uber, sort of slickly designed, sort of modernist buildings for people with OCD. Whereas we've got on our website, we've got more lifestyle photos of sort of people. People with kids in their space enjoying, beautiful views of the garden with lots of lovely lights.
And actually living in the buildings.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Well, I really appreciate you joining us for this conversation. It's a fascinating topic, and as we discussed at the beginning, or maybe it was before we went live, I don't even remember at this point, but not everybody is going to want to buy into a franchise. Not everybody is going to want to start a franchise. But I think there are so many takeaways for all of us. This is a community of entrepreneurial, usually small firm architects. You've been through this. You've you're educated, you're trained, you've worked for large firms, you've started your own firm, you've gone through the pivot, and now you have the franchise model firm. For anybody that's in this community that maybe they're thinking about starting their own firm, or maybe they have already and need to figure out, as you said, how to tighten up their business. What's your biggest takeaway from your journey at this point that you'd want to share with an entrepreneurial architect?
I think it's know your clients. So really understand who they are, where they hang out, whether it's commercial client or a government client or healthcare or whatever. Who are they, where do they hang out, and then become an expert in that field, and then talk to them as an expert. I think we kind of think that I think architects are kind of jack of all trades and master of none. I think you can, if you're constantly going from one sector to another, you're reinventing the wheel each time, because you're learning different legislation and resources and stuff. So I guess we're kind of experts in residential domestic extensions.
Yeah,
So
that makes a lot of sense. Yeah.
Yep.
That's great advice. So we're going to let Lisa go because it's late in the UK.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
We appreciate you staying up late and having this conversation with us.
Yeah.
Again, I think it's a really inspiring story, and it's an important topic. So thank you for sharing everything that you shared. If you want to know more about the Pride Road franchise model, the URL is in the bottom left-hand corner of the screen right now. If you're listening instead of watching, it's Pride Road Franchise. Those three words smashed together like one word. prideroadfranchise.co.uk. So prideroadfranchise.co.uk, and you'll find more about Lisa and the Pride Road franchise model. So Lisa, thank you very much for joining us. We're going to let you go. We're going to continue the conversation here for anybody that wants to stick around and talk about your takeaways, ask your questions. We're going to just keep it going here, and but we're going to let Lisa get some sleep because that's important.
Thanks, guys. Thanks very much
Yeah.
for having me.
Yeah, it was
Thank
great
you,
to meet
Lisa.
you.
Absolutely.
Very
Thank you. We
interesting.
appreciate you. All right.
Thanks.
Have a good evening.
Thank you. Bye.
All right. All right. With that, everybody, like I said, we're going to stick around for a few minutes till the top of the hour, and we'll take some of your questions, bring some of your questions and comments into the conversation at this point. Katharine, I know you've got a list of questions that you gathered
Yeah.
during Clubhouse
Well,
this morning.
I kind of distilled them, so we got the gist of how she works, really. But questions were things like, do you have standard designs? If they were new houses, do you just have like a plan book that you have people use? Which the answer would be no. What are your qualifications for a franchisee? Which she did mention. For example, he said, do you hire women only, one per county? And what are you replicating? And I think she didn't say they had to be women, but it was kind of interesting idea that it would be a woman-owned firm only. Do they have different specialties? No. How long does it take to get a franchise going? We can see it on the website. Oh yeah. You could just also shut down, Lisa, you can also just shut the window down, like the tab.
Yeah.
We have captured Lisa in the back. The poor thing is stuck back there.
Yeah. We put
Anyway,
her back there
so
with the Cadbury chocolates.
yeah. Yeah, so it's just a lot of questions about the design. I think people were really interested in how they would do that. I mean, to me, it's attractive, the idea of having all of the branding worked out already, all of the colors, all of the everything.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, I think so. That That's a concern or a question that I would anticipate in the architecture community, right? It's creative and, um, every project is different and all of those things. But the thing that I notice as I listen to her talking is that they have created obviously the marketing, business development, sales processes. That was the first aha moment for her.
Hmm.
But as she was describing the architectural workshop model, that process, at first I wasn't really understanding what that was, but that was, and that's why I said I would call that a charrette. I mean, I don't know what everybody else would call it, but that's a
Hmm.
charrette with the owner. As she described, she did one today, 3.5 hours, I think she said.
Ugh, yeah, that sounds a little
And so they
exhausting.
they go through the whole design process right there, I guess schematic design process right there
Hmm.
with the client, in the room with the client, and they get
Yeah.
to a go, no-go, point with that. And so
Hmm.
that's their system, that's their process for that. And then that's a point, this is where we stop and we get paid. And then if you wanna go forward, we go forward, but here's the next step.
Hmm.
Um,
I like
so
that. I
yeah.
like that. It's very tied up. So there's no
Mhm.
drawn on for months, and they have to do their own. Um, it's obviously not a very detailed set that they're sending out to the builders, but they're doing
Right.
all that work.
Yeah.
It,
Yeah,
I mean, it's
that's
very
one
interesting.
thing. Yeah, that's one thing I've noticed in listening to a few, interviews with Lisa, and I've I was on Lisa's podcast. That's actually how this conversation got started. I was on Lisa's podcast. Um, she was interviewing me for her podcast, and she mentioned franchise. And I went, "Hey, wait a minute! I want to talk about that." So apologies to Lisa because I kind of flipped her podcast and started interviewing her, and we started talking about Michael Gerber, um, and the franchise model and everything else. But the thing that I've really noticed in talking with her and listening to other interviews with her is that everything is very tight and tidy, and there is a very specific beginning and end to everything and a
Mm,
value placed on everything. And so she's done a fantastic job of really thinking through, what does it take to run a very specific architecture business very well. And I think
hmm.
that very specific piece of it is also very important to this conversation.
Yeah, and she has. I was reading through her website, and she has things like some of our architects take all of August off, and this is all
Yeah.
about life. You can have the opportunity to balance what you need to do in your life versus your business, and so that's kind of appealing as well.
Yeah.
I don't know. I
Yeah.
mean, what if there were a whole bunch of architecture franchises that we could choose from
Mhm.
in the US or in the UK? I assume she's pretty much the only one doing it. But,
Is
if you
yeah.
wanted to do an OCD practice, then you could do theirs. Or if you I personally like her idea of designing for the way people are living in these houses. So,
Yeah. Yeah.
that's something I like. So I would choose hers probably. But anyway, it's like, I wonder if that's anything that's going to take off.
Well, I mean, she's grown it to 5 locations so far, and,
Hmm.
Christian's, see if I can click on that one. Christian's point about do franchisees help each other? I don't know the answer to that, but the way I read it the first time was do franchises help each other? Um, and so the first thought that came to my mind was remembering one of the conversations that I listened to. I think it was Stephen Drew on the Architecture Social and Lisa, and she talked about basically brand visibility. So when she started, at one point her firm was called Lisa Raynes Architect, I think, um, rebranded or maybe completely restarted, for that matter, the Pride Road brand. So at the beginning, it was Lisa,
Hmm.
and in the location where she is. And I don't know if you caught the very specific definition of a territory. She's
Hmm. Oh, I did.
divided up 150 some odd, and there's what was it, 70,000?
Yeah, 70,000 potential clients within that each territory.
Yeah. Yeah. So, I mean, that's very specific. But so the I think part of the synergy is as more and more franchises pop up, then that brand awareness just spreads,
Mhm.
right? Because you've got Pride Road here, and we've got Pride Road there, and there, and the 4 other locations. As more are added, that brand becomes more and more visible. Just like,
Mhm.
I hate to, because we don't. I know that we don't like the idea of equating architecture and McDonald's. I totally get that. I mean, that's
Mhm.
a common pushback against um, Michael Gerber's work. But I mean, if I think we've really got to think about it in those terms, it's what happens when another, pick something besides McDonald's if you don't like it.
Dunkin'
Start
Donuts.
Dunkin'. What happens when another Dunkin' opens up? Somebody goes, "Oh, there's a Dunkin',"
Another
right? When
Dunkin'. Maybe that's
another
a bad
Dunkin'.
example too. That's not that different from
Yeah,
McDonald's to
well,
me.
I think it's
But,
hard. I think that's where the
Pete's
spread is.
Coffee. Pete's Coffee is a good one.
Sure. Okay. So there's another Pete's Coffee. Oh, I love Pete's Coffee. I think about, I've seen them here and there. And when I went to San Francisco, I saw the mothership and all of that. And the same thing, in a different way, happens with Pride Road.
Mm.
Um, and I think in talking with Lisa, the thing that really struck me is the number of us that have started our own things and struggled sometimes mightily for years to figure these things out and to get a website built and to figure
Yep.
out how to find clients. And it's all of those things are I don't mean to diminish it in any way, but it's
Mhm.
like a firm in a box,
Yeah.
right?
Right. Which is a lot. Like she's already chosen all the colors. I don't know about
Yeah.
anybody else, but how much time have we spent trying to figure out what our colors are? I mean, that's a big choice. It's big.
Yeah.
I don't know why it's so big, but it's hard for us. I think because we think we
Mhm.
should be able to do all the graphic design, all of that stuff, like she said about us being, well, she was saying jack of all trades, like all types of projects. But I also think that we
Yeah.
think we can do all the stuff ourselves. And it's pretty
100%.
tiring, you know?
Yeah. Yeah.
So,
Well, when
yeah,
she says $10,000 for 5 or 10,000 pounds, I
pounds.
think you said,
Hmm.
for 5 years.
Yep.
I don't know what the conversion rate is,
I'll look
but
it up.
let's so maybe it's something close. We're gonna find out here momentarily, but when she said that, the first time I heard her say that in a conversation, I, my very first thought was, "My gosh, if that's close to $10,000."
It's $11,712.05.
Okay, so if it's $12,000
Mhm.
roughly,
Right.
it's really easy to spend $12,000 on a website. Now,
Mhm.
how many in our community have spent that on a website? I don't know. But if I went out and hired someone to do that, I'll just I'll be straight up with you. If you work with me on a website, you're going to spend $12,000,
Are you the
right?
one doing
Depending
the
on what
website?
to do the website.
Hmm.
Um, depending on what you need, but you're going to spend that much, and that's only the website.
Right, right.
And
Yeah,
you've
I
got to.
love that she can use other people's photos too. Like
Mhm.
the fact that you can start off
Yeah.
doing that. I just like there's so many things I like about it. Sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt you.
Oh no, no, no! You're exactly right. I mean, to me, it's just like back to that idea of the firm in the box. It's like all those decisions that you had to make, like you said, exhausting. All the
Mhm.
money that you spend on this and that and the other, and they've done
Yep.
all that for you. You just have to, um, you have to pay that fee. And it's not for everybody, and it's very specific. I'm going to say that again. Um, the specificity of it is extremely important.
Right.
If I like Starbucks, but
Okay. Well, we can say
if
Starbucks.
if someone wanted to open a salad restaurant, they
Mhm.
can't go buy a Starbucks franchise. Right? It doesn't work.
Right. They
If
would
they
be
wanted,
buying the wrong thing.
they'd be buying the wrong thing. If they maybe narrow down, if they wanted to open a coffee and donuts, they're not buying a Starbucks.
Mm.
Right? Starbucks is very specific. Maybe if they wanted coffee and donuts, they'd go to Dunkin'. But I think the specificity of what was it, 700,000 owner occupied,
Go 70,000.
70,000 owner occupied
Mhm.
homes in a territory is very specific.
Yeah.
Residential renovations and extensions is very specific.
Mhm.
The design process of, doing a design and an architecture workshop on site with clients. Although if you listen to some other conversations, it's interesting to hear how they made that pivot during COVID,
Mm.
obviously, but a design workshop to get through the schematic design process in person with your clients is very specific. But they've worked all these things into their systems.
Yeah, I wonder, I mean, she must have decided how much it costs for that too, because it's very specific. Would you say 3.5 hours, and then you have these things
Yeah.
on trace paper, and then
Mhm.
that's that. So how that must be a certain amount of money, like just on the beginning, like this is how much this costs, and then you move on to the other part. So you don't have to worry about the pricing if you're just
Yeah.
doing that.
Yeah, that's a good point. It would have been good to ask that question because I'll bet there is a set price for that.
Yeah, I would think so. I mean, I do wonder what it is.
Mhm.
'Cause it seems
Yeah.
kind of being able to just go in there, and this is a design
Mhm.
solution, go see how much it might cost and how if you wanna sell your house or stay here, and let me know in a month. That would be
Yeah.
that would be like, "Okay, thanks."
Yeah.
I don't know, it would be nice to have that.
Well, and imagine, so, detach it from the franchise model, but imagine what it would be like if you built those systems for your firm.
Mhm. Yeah.
Yeah.
I know, that's the thing. I keep meaning to do stuff like that, Jeff, but I could
Mhm.
barely make it to this on time. It's like, if I had a month to do all this, just nothing else besides just design systems, that would be awesome. I should just take a month.
Well, remember, it took her 4 years to build
Okay.
these systems.
Okay.
So,
Maybe
maybe
I'll
that's some sort
maybe
of
that's the problem.
encouragement
Mhm.
for everybody that's going, "I don't have these systems. It takes a lot of time." It took her 4. Now, she's been very thorough, and she
Mhm.
has all the systems, and she's got the complete package, but you don't have to get it done in a month, right?
You don't have to get it done
It
in a month.
absolutely takes time,
Yeah,
a lot of
but
time.
we were wondering exactly what kind of systems that she would be, selling or whatever, so I'm
Mhm.
just still kind of fascinated that she specifically says you have to go in there and do this workshop with the we're
Yep.
tracing paper, and
Mhm.
that's basically the product that she's having
Right,
people sell.
right. Yeah, the
Wasn't
beginning of it.
expecting that.
Yeah, I was trying to visualize it, as she was, describing this, and sort of compare it to some other franchise, a Starbucks or a McDonald's or a Dunkin' or whatever, Chick-fil-A,
Popeyes.
Popeyes, yeah, Popeyes. Let's compare it to a Popeyes.
Okay.
And I as she describes it, and I know a lot of their systems are client acquisition systems. They run advertisements, like she said, social media and the websites and all of those things, and that was, her first aha, that system. So client acquisition is huge. Popeyes spends a lot of money on advertising and coupons and all types of things. So that's part of their client acquisition
Mm,
system. And then once they, I guess you pull into the drive-through or whatever, however you get there, y- on the Pride Road website, you can book a call or a free consultation or something like that. So they're at the window at this point. and looking at the menu. They have a menu of services. Pride Road has a menu of services. I was just trying to visualize the parallels of working with an architect in a such a systematized way versus going to Popeyes and ordering the fried chicken and biscuits or whatever you're getting, and then
Pretty good
paying.
biscuits.
You
And
want
then
the
paying.
biscuits?
I
Yeah,
like
and
those biscuits. Yeah.
yeah, buttermilk biscuits probably. I've
They're
never
pretty
been
good.
to a
I mean, I've
Popeyes.
never seen a Popeyes before I moved where I live now. Now we have one
Okay.
near us. So,
Yeah, yeah,
but yeah, I like it.
yeah.
Yeah, it's true. There are similarities.
hmm
I like that
Yeah,
idea of the menu.
I mean, I think it would be. Mark and I were talking the other day about the value is always in the experience.
Hmm.
So, what's the experience of working with your firm? Going back to when we had Jesse Cole as
Right.
a guest for Context and Clarity Live, the Savannah Bananas rethought the entire experience from buying a ticket online to showing up to walking from your car into the stadium to the whole game, to leaving to buying food and souvenirs and all of that,
Hmm.
to leaving the stadium, going back to your car and driving home
Yeah. And talking to your friends about it the next day. They want
and
you to do
talking.
that as well.
Exactly. So what what would it be like if you thought through the entire experience from the first place somebody encountered you,
Mm.
Instagram, TikTok, a Google ad, your website, whatever, all the way from that point to moving into their home, not to your home, hopefully.
That's what they have to come to my
It's a
live in my
little,
home because their project was going on so long.
yeah, that's maybe a different model, a little
Yeah,
bit different
that's
model.
different. Yeah.
But what if you had a system for every step of that experience?
Yeah.
I mean,
That would be the idea, right?
that's what Popeyes is doing. It says if
Eh,
you think Cadbury eggs are gross,
I know.
Popeyes. I've never been to a Popeyes, so I don't.
Oh, you
I
haven't?
mean,
I've only been
no,
there
I've seen them.
twice.
We have them here, but I've never been
Oh,
to
they have
one.
good
So
I mean, they have pretty decent biscuits, I guess.
I guess
I guess. Well, you and I are going to be talking a lot more about this on our behind the scenes
we are.
show that we
We
do.
will. Yeah, and we're past the top of the hour.
Mm.
Hopefully, this provides some inspiration for everybody, or at least some enough intrigue that you explored or think about it more. Um, I really wanted to have Lisa on because um, I thought that this is sort of thinking all the way back to Michael Gerber, which is a year and a half, maybe 2 years ago at this point that we talked to Michael Gerber. Um, this is going from talking to him, reading the book, learning about the things that he writes about in the book, the concepts that he talks about, and here's the actual application, not only in real life but in the context of architecture firms. So
Mhm.
that's why as soon as I talked to her, I said, we've got to have Lisa on here because this is taking the abstract into the real world and into the architecture world. So
Yeah.
um, big thanks to Lisa and congratulations to Lisa for her success in creating Pride Road and continuing to grow Pride Road. So hopefully we can all take some inspiration and and curiosity
Mm.
from this conversation today.
Yeah. It's a lot to think about.
It is a lot to think about. It absolutely is. We're going to continue as usual. We're going to continue our related conversations tomorrow on our Context and Clarity conversation. It's Friday, in case you're seeing this in the future. Today's Thursday. Tomorrow's Friday. Tomorrow's question that we will start with will be what tasks, it's coming full circle, what tasks or maybe experiences do you need to systematize and maybe even delegate. So we'll start out that conversation tomorrow morning on Clubhouse at 9 a.m. Eastern. We'll be back inside the EntreArchitect Community Facebook group tomorrow afternoon at 4 p.m. Eastern to continue that conversation. And that'll wrap up our week of thinking about franchises and systems and everything related. As we look forward to next week in Context and Clarity Live, next week, our guest will be Christian Giordano, who is the CEO of Mancini Duffy. We've had Belanley Williams-Olney on Context and Clarity Live. She was one of our guest speakers at the EntreArchitect Community annual meeting last week. She was fantastic, talking about being bold. Now we're going to have the CEO of Belanley is the CFO of Mancini Duffy. Now we're going to have Christian Giordano, who is the CEO of Mancini Duffy. And I'm really looking forward to this conversation as well, because Mancini Duffy it's one of the legacy firms in New York. And they've really, this generation of ownership has really rethought the way that they practice and the way that they serve clients and what an architecture firm is. So we're going to talk with Christian about that next week. So look forward to that a week from today, which will be November 17th, Thursday, November 17th. Today's November 10th. It's my youngest sister's birthday. So happy birthday.
Happy birthday
to Jennifer. She's getting old. So
Jennifer. Aren't we all getting old?
We are.
Hopefully.
No, some of us are.
Yeah, only some of us. Oh, well, okay.
Yeah,
I see what you're doing.
I stopped. We were talking, she and I were talking about that earlier. At some point you just start counting backwards. So, so Mark's comment, Chris, I see the last comments here before we wrap it up here. I'm going to throw Mark's up on the screen. It says the anti-architect meets the grouchy architect. It's going to be fun. So Christian has a podcast called The Anti-Architect. And that will absolutely...
Christian or who? The other guy, not Christian.
Christian Giordano.
Oh, they're both named Christian.
Yes. Wow, the tangled webs. Christian Giordano has a podcast called The Anti-Architect. And that will be one of the very first questions that I have for him next week. And Christian, our Christian, is the grouchy architect. So the anti-architect meets the grouchy architect. It's going to be fun.
I just realized I missed Scott's birthday yesterday.
Well,
did people sing on Clubhouse? I don't even know.
Apparently they did not. So I did at the very beginning of Context and Clarity yesterday, but my microphone wasn't working at the time.
Sure.
So it was a silent rendition.
That's so lame, Jeff. There's nothing wrong with your microphone. You just pretended it was.
Oh no! Yesterday we had microphone troubles.
Well, we'll have to sing. Maybe tomorrow on Context and Clarity we can sing. Morning, Clubhouse.
Okay.
Be there, Scott. We'll be singing for you.
Just like that. All right. With that, everybody, appreciate you. Thanks for making Context and Clarity a thing, because without you, we wouldn't have had this conversation with Lisa Raynes today. My hope is that you'll be well and stay safe. Keep those around you safe and well. Find some way to breathe and relax, a way to rejuvenate, because we do this every day. You've got to pace yourself. It's been a long journey. The journey continues. Thanks for going along the journey with us every day. We'll see you tomorrow. Thanks, everybody.